What comes to mind when you think of muscle cars? Probably the roaring beasts of the late 60s, packing monstrous V8 engines under the hood. But what if I told you that nearly 2 decades after America's muscle car era began to fade, one of the world's fastest and most powerful V8-powered cars wasn't even American? By the 1980s, muscle cars were shadows of their former selves, strangled by emissions laws and rising fuel costs. While the U.S. Big Three automakers struggled to cross the 250 horsepower mark, a British manufacturer halfway across the world was quietly working on a masterpiece, a car that would redefine the boundaries of luxury and performance. This wasn't just another high-performance vehicle. It was elegant, bespoke, and handmade. And yet beneath its sophisticated exterior was a heart that roared like a classic muscle car. This car was the Aston Martin V8 Vantage, and its story is one of ambition, resilience, and raw power. Over the next few minutes, we'll explore how Aston Martin went from producing stylish but modest Grand Tours to crafting what many consider Britain's first supercar. From its connection to the James Bond famous DB5 to the record-breaking V8 Vantage X-Pack, this is the tale of a car that combined brute force with undeniable class. So buckle up, because we're about to dive into the history of the ultimate muscle car in a suit. The year was 1967, and Aston Martin was at a crossroads. The company's global fame had skyrocketed thanks to James Bond and the iconic DB5, a car that became a cultural symbol of sophistication. But while the DB5 and its successor, the DB6, were beloved, they were still evolutions of the older DB4 platform. The world of luxury Grand Tours was evolving, and Aston Martin needed something new to stay competitive. Enter the DBS, a car designed to bridge the gap between old-world elegance and modern performance. Unlike its predecessors, the DBS featured a more aggressive, muscular stance. Its body was wider, its lines sharper, and its overall presence more imposing. Some say its design was even inspired by the American muscle cars of the 1960s, with a boxy front end and a wide grille that screamed power. But this wasn't just a car meant to look bold. Aston Martin had big plans for what lay under the hood. The DBS was initially designed to house the company's first-ever V8 engine, a cutting-edge 5.3-liter aluminum powerhouse engineered by Polish designer Tadek Marek. Unfortunately, delays in the engine's development meant the first DBS models were fitted with the older inline-six from the DB6. This six-cylinder engine, while smooth and capable, wasn't quite what the DBS needed to match its new muscular look. Producing around 280 horsepower, it was respectable but lacked the raw grunt to make the car truly exceptional. Still, the DBS was praised for its luxurious ride and elegant design, setting the stage for what was to come. When the V8 finally arrived in 1969, the DBS was transformed. Suddenly, Aston Martin had a car that wasn't just beautiful, but genuinely powerful. This marked the beginning of a new chapter for the brand, a chapter that would lead to the creation of the legendary V8 Vantage. By 1969, the Aston Martin DBS finally received the upgrade it was built for, a brand new 5.3-liter aluminum V8 engine, the first of its kind for the company. Designed by Tadek Marek, this engine was a significant leap forward for Aston Martin, pushing the DBS into the high-performance category with an impressive 360 horsepower. This was a car that could finally compete with the best American muscle cars of the era. The V8 engine wasn't just powerful, it also delivered a smooth driving experience, thanks to its advanced Bosch fuel injection system. Paired with the DBS's new chassis, which featured a Dédian rear axle, ventilated disc brakes, and an optional 5-speed manual transmission, the car could go from 0 to 60 miles per hour in just 6 seconds and hit a top speed of 160 miles per hour. For a Grand Tourer in the late 60s, these were extraordinary numbers. However, the path to perfection wasn't without its bumps. The fuel injection system, though advanced for its time, caused numerous reliability issues. Owners reported inconsistent performance, and Aston Martin found itself inundated with complaints. As a result, the company reverted to a carbureted setup for later models. While this fix sacrificed some of the modernity, it brought back the reliability Aston Martin's reputation depended on. Visually, the DBS V8 maintained its imposing stance, But as the 1970s progressed, it became clear the design needed an update. In 1973, Aston Martin introduced a facelifted version of the DBS, now simply called the Aston Martin V8. Gone was the quad headlight setup of the original DBS, replaced with a cleaner, more elegant single headlight design and a reshaped grille. These updates marked the transition from the original DBS V8 to what enthusiasts refer to as the Series 2 Aston Martin V8. While the performance of the V8 dropped slightly during the mid-1970s due to tightening emissions regulations, dipping to around 310 horsepower, Aston Martin wasn't ready to back down. By 1977, the company began an aggressive push to restore the car's former glory. This determination laid the groundwork for what would become the most iconic version of the V8 yet, the Aston Martin V8 Vantage. The introduction of the V8 wasn't just a technical achievement, it was a turning point for Aston Martin. It showed the world that the brand wasn't just about luxury, it was about power too. By the late 1970s, Aston Martin had raised the stakes. With emissions regulations choking performance cars worldwide, the company responded with the Aston Martin V8 Vantage in 1977, a car that would shake up the automotive world. This wasn't just an evolution of the V8, it was a statement of intent. The Vantage was designed to be fast, bold, and unapologetically aggressive. At first glance, the V8 Vantage looked like a refined gentleman's car, but its muscular design hinted at something more sinister beneath the surface. The grille was redesigned with a bold enclosed central section, complemented by large fog lamps and an extended hood bulge. The aggressive stance was paired with wider tires, a lowered suspension, and updated aerodynamics, making the Vantage look as powerful as it was. Under the hood, Aston Martin made significant upgrades to the 5.3-liter V8. The carburetors were swapped out for larger 48mm Weber units, mounted on redesigned intake manifolds. The engine also received larger valves, a higher compression ratio, and updated camshafts, pushing power output to an astonishing 380 horsepower. For context, this was faster than almost anything else on the road in 1977. Performance figures spoke for themselves. The V8 Vantage could sprint from 0 to 60 miles per hour in just 5 seconds and had a top speed of 170 miles per hour, making it the fastest production car in the world at the time. To put this into perspective, it outpaced competitors like the Ferrari 512BB and the Lamborghini Countach. But Aston Martin wasn't done. In 1986, the company introduced the V8 Vantage X-Pack, the ultimate version of the car. This beast featured even more upgrades. Larger carburetors, Cosworth pistons, reworked intake ports, and improved camshafts. These enhancements pushed the engine's output to a staggering 432 horsepower, solidifying its place as the pinnacle of naturally aspirated V8 performance. The X-Pack wasn't just about raw power. It retained the luxurious touches Aston Martin was known for, offering a handcrafted interior with premium materials and space for four. It was, as some have called it, the ultimate muscle car in a suit, a car that could dominate a racetrack and then take you to an opera in style. While it was undeniably fast, the V8 Vantage X-Pack was also rare. Aston Martin produced only 137 X-Pack cars, making it one of the most exclusive performance cars of its time. For those lucky enough to own one, it was more than a car. It was a piece of engineering art. The V8 Vantage's dominance wasn't just measured in numbers. It was about redefining what a performance car could be. It showed that luxury and speed weren't mutually exclusive, setting a standard that modern Aston Martin still strive to meet. Fast forward to today, and Aston Martin Works offers enthusiasts the chance to restore older V8s to X-Pack specifications, or even upgrade them further to a 6.3-liter, near 500 horsepower setup. This means the legacy of the V8 Vantage lives on, a testament to Aston Martin's unrelenting pursuit of perfection. The V8 Vantage and its X-Pack variant remain icons of an era when Aston Martin took on the giants of the automotive world and won. It wasn't just about keeping up with Ferrari or Lamborghini. It was about showing them that British engineering could outclass them all, and do so with unmistakable style. The Aston Martin V8 Vantage didn't just rewrite the rules for performance cars, it created an entirely new category. the luxury muscle car. At a time when the automotive world was being suffocated by emissions regulations, Aston Martin proved that raw power and sophistication could coexist. What made the V8 Vantage truly special wasn't just its speed or exclusivity, it was the way it blended muscle and refinement. This was a car that could embarrass Ferraris and Lamborghinis on a straight line while still providing a level of craftsmanship that made it feel like a rolling piece of art. With its handcrafted interior, plush leather seats, and iconic design, the V8 Vantage was more than just a car. It was an experience. But perhaps the most remarkable thing about the V8 Vantage was its timing. In the late 1970s and early 1980s, most manufacturers were scaling back performance in favor of efficiency. Aston Martin, however, doubled down, creating one of the fastest cars in the world. This bold move didn't just keep the company relevant, it solidified its reputation as a maker of cars that defied convention. The car's rarity only adds to its allure. With only 137 X-Pack models produced, owning one of these vehicles is like owning a piece of history. For enthusiasts, it represents the pinnacle of Aston Martin's engineering capabilities during a transformative period in the industry. Even today, the legacy of the V8 Vantage endures. Modern Aston Martins, like the DBS Superleggera and the current Vantage, draw inspiration from the raw power and timeless design of their predecessors. Through restoration efforts by Aston Martin Works, classic V8s can be brought back to life with updated specifications, ensuring that the legend continues for generations to come. Ultimately, the V8 Vantage wasn't just a car, it was a declaration of what Aston Martin stood for: elegance, power, and an uncompromising commitment to excellence. It remains a shining example of how passion and engineering can come together to create something truly extraordinary. The Aston Martin V8 Vantage wasn't just a car, it was a masterpiece of engineering, a statement of bold ambition that defied the norms of its time. Combining the raw power of a muscle car with the sophistication of a luxury grand tourer, it became a symbol of what Aston Martin could achieve when they pushed boundaries. From the aggressive lines of its design to the thunderous roar of its naturally aspirated V8, the Vantage embodied a perfect balance of elegance and performance. Whether it was dominating the roads as the fastest production car of the late 1970s or offering an unmatched sense of exclusivity with the X-Pack variant, this car cemented its place in automotive history. But here's the real question. Was the V8 Vantage the ultimate luxury muscle car, or was it simply a bold alternative to its Italian and American rivals? I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. If you enjoyed this deep dive into one of Aston Martin's most iconic creations, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. It really helps support the channel and brings more content like this to life. Until next time, keep chasing the thrill of the drive.